Implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms by Q2 2024, a full event report. Summary.
The implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms by the second quarter of 2024 is a strategic initiative aimed at addressing urban mobility challenges in 5 major cities worldwide. With a projected investment of $1.2 million, this initiative will focus on enhancing transport systems to benefit economically disadvantaged populations, particularly women who face barriers in accessing public transport and employment opportunities. The implementation process will unfold in 4 key phases: planning and preparation, execution, monitoring and evaluation, and scaling.
Background. Urban transport systems globally face several challenges, including inadequate infrastructure, lack of accessibility, safety concerns, and insufficient integration between different modes of transport. The World Bank's report emphasizes the necessity of effective urban mobility governance, which can significantly enhance the transport experience for marginalized populations. This initiative is particularly significant in cities like Dhaka, where fragmented transport governance limits effective planning and implementation.
The need for effective governance. In Dhaka, the existing Transport Coordination Authority lacks the necessary powers to enforce plans and coordinate effectively with other institutions. The proposed Metropolitan Transport Authority (MTA) model suggests that a clear mandate and sufficient capacity are essential for successful governance. Effective governance can enhance women's labor force participation (LFP), as improved public transport has been shown to address mobility challenges for women in cities like Amman, Beirut, and Cairo.
Implementation phases. Phase 1: Planning and Preparation. The planning and preparation phase will involve stakeholder consultations, data collection, and the development of a comprehensive strategy. Key activities will include:
1. Stakeholder engagement, engaging local governments, transport operators, civil society organizations, and women's groups to understand their mobility needs and challenges.
2. Data collection, gathering data on existing transport systems, demographic information, and specific barriers faced by women in accessing employment. 3. Strategy development, formulating a strategic plan that outlines specific interventions, timelines, and resource allocation to address identified mobility challenges. Phase 2: Execution. Execution will focus on implementing the strategies developed during the planning phase. This phase will include: 1. Infrastructure improvements, investing in public transport infrastructure including bus lanes, stops, and safety features. 2. Capacity building, training local transport authorities and agencies to manage and operate the improved systems effectively. 3. Public awareness campaigns, raising awareness among communities about the availability of improved transport services and how to access them. Phase 3: Monitoring and evaluation. Monitoring and evaluation will be essential to assess the impact of the interventions. Key activities will include: 1. Performance metrics, developing performance metrics to track improvements in transport accessibility, safety, and the number of women accessing employment. 2. Feedback mechanisms, establishing feedback channels for users, particularly women, to report on their experiences and suggest improvements. 3. Impact assessments, conducting regular assessments to understand the broader socioeconomic impact of improved transport systems on women's LFP. Phase 4: Scaling. The final phase will focus on scaling successful interventions to additional cities or areas. Key components will include: 1. Replication strategies, identifying successful models and strategies that can be replicated in other urban areas facing similar challenges. 2. Funding opportunities, exploring additional funding sources including private sector investments and international development assistance to support scaling efforts. 3. Partnership development, building partnerships with local, national, and international stakeholders to foster collaboration and resource sharing. Evidence and literature review.
Recent studies highlight the strong correlation between improved transport systems and enhanced employment opportunities for women. For instance, addressing safety concerns in public transport can increase women's LFP by nearly 5 percentage points in cities like Amman.
Similarly, evidence from Armenia's Lifeline Road Network project demonstrates that better connectivity can lead to significant increases in non-agricultural employment. Despite the positive trends, the transition to electric mobility (EV) in Pakistan remains a challenge. The national electric vehicle policy has introduced incentives, but high acquisition costs and limited charging infrastructure hinder progress. Addressing these issues through clear policies and demand-side financing mechanisms is crucial for stimulating EV adoption. Conclusion: the implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms by Q2 2024 represents a significant step toward enhancing urban mobility for economically disadvantaged populations, particularly women. By focusing on effective governance, strategic investments in infrastructure, and addressing specific barriers faced by women, this initiative has the potential to transform transport systems in major cities. The coordinated approach across planning, execution, monitoring, and scaling phases will ensure that the benefits of improved transport systems extend to those who need it most. Fostering greater economic participation and empowerment. This report outlines the comprehensive plan for implementing salary seed funding mechanisms aimed at improving urban mobility. It reflects on the importance of effective governance, strategic interventions, and the need for continuous evaluation to ensure long-term success. The provided content covers a range of topics related to urban transport, economic opportunities, and infrastructure challenges in various contexts, particularly focusing on women's mobility, electric vehicle adoption, and the economic potential of lithium resources in Argentina. Here are some counterintuitive insights and observations derived from the content. 1. Women's labor force participation versus education. Despite higher university enrollment among women in MENA, their labor force participation remains low. This counterintuitive finding suggests that educational attainment does not automatically translate to economic empowerment, highlighting the intricacies of social, economic, and infrastructural barriers that women face. 2. Improved public transport and economic opportunities. The assumption that improving public transport directly correlates with increased women's labor force participation is challenged by the findings. Women face unique constraints in different cities, and a one-size-fits-all approach to public transport solutions may not effectively address their specific needs. For instance, safety concerns are paramount in Amman, while spatial accessibility is more critical for women in lower-income households in Cairo. 3. Electric mobility adoption in Pakistan. The expectation that electric vehicles (EVs) would see rapid adoption due to government incentives is countered by the reality of high acquisition costs and limited charging infrastructure. Despite the government's efforts through the National Electric Vehicle Policy, the transition to electric mobility remains sluggish, illustrating that financial incentives alone may not be sufficient to drive widespread adoption. 4. Economic impact of improved roads. The belief that road improvements primarily reduce travel times and costs overlooks their broader economic implications. The evidence suggests that improved road infrastructure can lead to structural transformation in the economy by shifting employment from agriculture to more productive sectors. This counters the notion that rural development focuses solely on agricultural productivity. 5. The relationship between urbanization and transport needs. The assumption that urbanization leads to increased demand for public transport is complicated by the findings. In many developing cities, the growth of informal public transport is a symptom of inadequate formal public transport systems rather than a solution. This indicates that urban growth must be managed with strategic planning to ensure that transport systems evolve to meet the needs of growing populations. 6. Perceptions of public transport safety. The assumption that public transport is inherently safe is challenged by the findings that many women adjust their travel behavior based on perceived safety risks. This perception can significantly deter women from utilizing public transport, thus impacting their economic opportunities. 7. Incentives for lithium resource development. While the potential for lithium resource development in Argentina's NOA is seen as a major economic opportunity, the reality of transport and infrastructure challenges may hinder the realization of these benefits. The expectation that simply enhancing infrastructure will lead to economic transformation is countered by the need for comprehensive planning that integrates various economic sectors. 8. The role of government in transport governance. The expectation that a centralized authority can effectively manage complex transport systems is complicated by the reality in Dhaka. The DTCA's inability to enforce its plans and coordinate effectively with other institutions highlights that having a governing body is not enough, it must also possess the necessary authority and resources to function effectively. 9. Economic viability of EVs. The prevailing thought might be that EVs will automatically become the preferred choice due to environmental concerns. However, the higher upfront costs and the nascent stage of the EV market in Pakistan suggest that without significant structural changes and financial support mechanisms, EV adoption may not meet expectations. 10. Job creation versus economic growth in rural areas. Improved road infrastructure is generally associated with increased job creation. However, the analysis reveals that while jobs in agriculture are abundant, they are often low-paying and unstable. The transition to better jobs in higher value sectors is not guaranteed and requires additional factors to align, such as education and access to markets. These insights reveal complexities and nuances in the relationship between urban transport, women's economic opportunities, and the development of infrastructure in rapidly urbanizing regions. Each situation demands tailored solutions that address specific local contexts rather than relying on overarching assumptions or models from different regions. Important content in the report on salary seed funding mechanisms. In the comprehensive report regarding the implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms by Q2 2024, several key points may be overlooked by the general public. Yet they possess significant implications for urban mobility, particularly for economically disadvantaged populations, especially women. 1. Targeted investment areas and phases. The projected investment of $1.2 million across 5 major cities is organized into 4 key phases: planning and preparation, execution, monitoring, and evaluation and scaling. Each phase is critical for ensuring that the investment translates into meaningful improvements in urban mobility. Significance. While many might focus on the immediate execution and visible outcomes, the planning and preparation stages are crucial for understanding local context, stakeholder engagement, and ensuring that the interventions align with the needs of the populations they aim to assist. Overlooking the importance of these phases could lead to failure in addressing the very challenges the funding seeks to mitigate. 2. Women's economic empowerment and mobility. The report highlights that improving public transport can significantly enhance women's labor force participation (LFP). For example, in Amman, addressing safety issues in public transport is crucial for increasing women's LFP by 4.7 percentage points. Significance. Many reports might discuss transport improvements in general terms, but the specific impact on women's mobility and economic opportunities is often underrepresented. Understanding how public transport enhancements can directly influence women's participation in the labor market is vital for creating inclusive urban environments. Ignoring this demographic focus could perpetuate existing disparities. 3. Integration of findings from various sources. The report integrates findings from multiple sources such as the World Bank and other studies to underscore the importance of effective transport governance, improved public transport services, and strategic investments in infrastructure. Significance. This holistic approach emphasizes that urban mobility is not merely about building more roads or transit lines. It involves a complex interplay of governance, social equity, and economic opportunity.
Neglecting the interconnectedness of these factors can lead to fragmented solutions that do not adequately address the root causes of mobility challenges. 4. Challenges in electric mobility adoption. The report discusses the slow transition to electric mobility (EV) in Pakistan despite various incentives. High acquisition costs and limited charging infrastructure are cited as significant barriers. Significance: the focus on EV adoption is often overshadowed by discussions on immediate transport needs. However, the importance of transitioning to sustainable energy sources cannot be understated, especially in the context of global climate goals. Recognizing the barriers to EV adoption and proactively addressing them is essential for future-proofing urban mobility. 5. Impact of infrastructure improvements on employment. Evidence from Armenia's Lifeline Road Network project illustrates how better connectivity boosts employment opportunities. The report notes a 5.4 percentage point increase in non-agricultural employment for individuals living near good quality roads. Significance: the correlation between infrastructure quality and job creation is critical but frequently overlooked in discussions about transport projects. It highlights that investments in transport infrastructure can yield broader economic benefits, particularly in rural areas. Understanding this link can guide policymakers in prioritizing projects that maximize employment outcomes. 6. Public transport as an economic enabler. The report underscores that improved public transport services are vital for enhancing mobility and economic opportunities for disadvantaged populations, especially women. Significance: public transport systems often receive funding and attention for their role in reducing congestion or environmental impact, but their role as economic enablers is paramount. This perspective encourages the prioritization of equitable access in transport planning and funding decisions. 7. Emphasis on coordination and governance. The report suggests that effective urban mobility governance is essential for the success of transport interventions, advocating for a metropolitan transport authority model. Significance: the governance structure is often treated as secondary to infrastructure investments. However, without a robust governance framework, even well-funded projects can fail. This insight stresses the need for strong leadership and accountability mechanisms in transport governance, which can often be overlooked in favor of more tangible infrastructure projects. Conclusion: the report on the implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms not only addresses immediate urban mobility challenges but also emphasizes the broader socioeconomic impacts of transport improvements, particularly for women and disadvantaged groups. By focusing on these often overlooked aspects, governance, women's economic empowerment, and integrated planning, stakeholders can ensure that transport systems are equitable, sustainable, and capable of driving meaningful economic growth in urban areas. The implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms by Q2 2024, with a projected investment of $1.2 million across pilot programs in 5 major cities, is a significant initiative aiming to address urban mobility challenges. Here are 4 valuable points for in-depth analysis and discussion. 1. Urban mobility governance and the need for metropolitan transport authorities. The effectiveness of urban mobility interventions heavily relies on robust governance structures. The current governance model in cities like Dhaka, which lacks a centralized authority with the power to enforce transport policies, presents significant challenges. The proposed Metropolitan Transport Authority (MTA) model offers a solution by providing a clear mandate, sufficient capacity, and authority to coordinate across various transport agencies and stakeholders. This model is crucial as it can lead to more integrated planning, regulation, and implementation of transport systems. Discussion points: how can existing transport governance structures be reformed to enhance coordination and accountability? What lessons can be drawn from cities that have successfully implemented MTAs, and how can these be adapted to the contexts of the targeted cities for salary seed funding? 2. Impact of public transport on women's labor force participation. Research highlights that improved public transport systems can significantly enhance women's labor force participation (LFP). In cities like Amman, Beirut, and Cairo, women face unique mobility challenges that hinder their access to employment opportunities.
Safety concerns, inadequate public transport services,
and long wait times disproportionately affect women.
Addressing these barriers through targeted investments in public transport can lead to increased economic empowerment and participation. Discussion points. What specific measures can be implemented to improve the safety and accessibility of public transport for women? How can public transport improvements be tailored to meet the unique needs of women in different cultural contexts? 3. Infrastructure investments and economic transformation.
Investing in transport infrastructure such as the Lifeline road network in Armenia demonstrates how enhanced connectivity can lead to job creation and economic growth. Improved roads can facilitate access to markets, reduce transportation costs, and promote structural transformation from agriculture to more productive sectors.
The evidence suggests that road improvements correlate with increased non-agricultural employment,
particularly in rural areas.
Discussion points. What types of infrastructure investments yield the highest returns in terms of economic transformation and job creation? How can transport infrastructure projects be designed to ensure they benefit all socioeconomic groups, particularly marginalized communities? 4. Challenges and opportunities in electric mobility adoption. The transition to electric mobility (EV) in Pakistan is still in its infancy despite the introduction of the National Electric Vehicle Policy (NEVP). Challenges such as high acquisition costs, limited charging infrastructure, and inconsistent policies hinder progress. However, there are significant opportunities for growth,
including the potential to reduce reliance on imported fuels and improve air quality.
Discussion points. What strategies can be employed to overcome the barriers to EV adoption in Pakistan and similar contexts? How can government policies be aligned to support both the development of EV infrastructure and the broader goals of decarbonization and sustainability? Conclusion.
The implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms presents a unique opportunity to tackle urban mobility challenges through targeted investments. By focusing on improving governance structures, enhancing public transport for women, investing in infrastructure, and fostering electric mobility, cities can create more equitable and efficient transport systems. The discussions surrounding these points can lead to actionable insights and strategies for effective urban transport planning and policy implementation. Here are 3 famous historical cases that illustrate the complexities and challenges of implementing funding mechanisms for urban infrastructure and transport systems.
Akin to the content discussed in the proposed salary seed funding mechanisms for transport systems. 1. The Boston Big Dig, USA.
The Central Artery/Tunnel Project, commonly known as the Big Dig, was a major infrastructure project in Boston, Massachusetts aimed at alleviating traffic congestion and improving urban mobility. Initiated in the late 1980s, the project involved rerouting the Central Artery Interstate 93 underground and creating a new tunnel system.
The project faced numerous challenges, including significant cost overruns, delays, and engineering difficulties.
Initially estimated to cost $2.6 billion, the final price tag reached approximately $24 billion, making it one of the most expensive highway projects in U.S. history. The funding mechanisms included state and federal funds, but the project encountered issues with accountability and transparency, leading to public skepticism. Ultimately, while the Big Dig improved traffic flow and urban aesthetics, it serves as a cautionary tale regarding the importance of effective governance planning
and financial management in large-scale urban infrastructure projects. 2. The Crossrail Project, UK. The Crossrail project, now known as the Elizabeth Line, is a major railway construction project in London designed to increase transport capacity and reduce congestion in the city. Announced in 2007, it faced delays and budget increases due to construction challenges, including complex tunneling and integration with existing transport networks.
Initially budgeted at £14.8 billion, the cost eventually rose to over £18.9 billion.
The funding model included contributions from the UK government Transport for London TfL and business rates in London.
The project highlighted the difficulties in managing large-scale infrastructure funding and the necessity of effective coordination among various stakeholders.
Despite its challenges, the Crossrail project is expected to significantly enhance London's transport capacity and stimulate economic growth, demonstrating the potential benefits of ambitious urban transport initiatives when successfully implemented. 3. The Delhi Metro India.
The Delhi Metro Rail Corporation (DMRC) is a notable example of a successful urban transport project in India aimed at reducing traffic congestion and pollution in the capital city. Launched in 1998, the project faced initial skepticism regarding its feasibility and funding. The DMRC adopted a mixed funding model including government equity loans from international financial institutions and public-private partnerships. The project successfully completed multiple phases, significantly improving urban mobility and providing a reliable transport option for millions of residents.
However, challenges such as land acquisition issues, financial sustainability, and integration with existing transport systems persisted. The Delhi Metro demonstrates the importance of strategic planning, robust financial mechanisms, and stakeholder engagement in transforming urban transport infrastructure.
These cases illustrate how urban transport initiatives can face significant financial, administrative, and logistical challenges, emphasizing the need for effective governance, planning, and community involvement in achieving successful outcomes.
Future outlook: predictions for the implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms by Q2 2024.
The projected implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms by Q2 2024, with an investment of $1.2 million across pilot programs in 5 major cities, represents a significant step towards addressing urban mobility challenges and enhancing economic opportunities for disadvantaged populations. The following predictions outline the expected outcomes and developments in 4 key phases: planning and preparation, execution, monitoring and evaluation, and scaling.
1. Planning and Preparation Phase Q1 2024.
Expectation of comprehensive stakeholder engagement. The planning phase will likely involve extensive consultations with local communities, government agencies, and transport providers to ensure that the salary seed funding mechanisms are tailored to the specific needs of each city.
Emphasis will be placed on identifying barriers to public transport access, especially for women and economically disadvantaged groups. Data-driven decision-making. Utilizing data analytics tools and public transport mapping will enable planners to assess existing transport networks and identify gaps in service delivery. This data will be crucial in creating effective pilot programs that can demonstrate tangible benefits to the communities involved. Formation of collaborative partnerships. The establishment of partnerships between public and private stakeholders will be essential. Collaborating with local governments, NGOs, and transport service providers will facilitate resource sharing and enhance the effectiveness of the funding mechanisms. 2. Execution Phase Q2 2024. Pilot Program Launch. By Q2 2024, the pilot programs are expected to be launched in the selected cities. These programs will focus on providing financial assistance to transport operators to reduce fares, thereby making public transport more accessible and affordable for low-income commuters. Targeted interventions for women. Special attention will be given to initiatives aimed at improving women's safety and convenience on public transport. This may include training programs for drivers on gender sensitivity and the establishment of women-only transport services during peak hours. Integration of technology. The use of technology to streamline service delivery, such as mobile applications for real-time tracking and digital payment systems, will likely be implemented to enhance the commuter experience. 3. Monitoring and Evaluation Phase End of Q2 2024, Q3 2024. Assessment of impact. Monitoring will focus on key performance indicators such as ridership numbers, fare affordability, and user satisfaction, particularly among women. Surveys and data collection will provide insights into how effectively the funding mechanisms are addressing mobility challenges. Feedback loops for continuous improvement. The evaluation process will utilize feedback from program participants to refine and adjust the pilot programs as necessary. This adaptive management approach will ensure that the initiatives remain responsive to the needs of the communities. Reporting and transparency. Regular updates and reports will be shared with stakeholders and the public to maintain transparency and build trust in the project. This will also facilitate ongoing engagement and support from the community. 4. Scaling phase late Q3 2024, beyond. Expansion of successful models. Successful pilot programs are expected to be scaled up in the initial cities and potentially replicated in other urban areas facing similar mobility challenges. The lessons learned will inform broader policies aimed at addressing urban transport issues. Long-term funding strategies. As the programs demonstrate success, securing additional funding from government sources, international donors, or private investors will be crucial for sustaining and expanding the initiatives. Advancement of electric mobility. The implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms will align with broader efforts to promote electric mobility. The focus on reducing emissions and transitioning to more sustainable transport options will be emphasized through public-private partnerships. Contribution to economic growth. The enhanced accessibility of public transport is expected to boost economic activities, particularly in underprivileged communities. Improved mobility will facilitate access to jobs, education, and healthcare services, contributing to overall economic growth in the targeted cities. Conclusion. The implementation of salary seed funding mechanisms by Q2 2024 holds significant potential for transforming urban mobility in major cities, particularly for economically disadvantaged populations and women. Through a well-structured approach that emphasizes stakeholder engagement, data-driven decision-making, and adaptive management, these initiatives are set to create a positive impact on transport accessibility and overall economic opportunities. As the programs evolve, they will provide valuable insights and models for other urban areas grappling with similar challenges, ultimately contributing to a more sustainable and equitable urban transport landscape.